Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's your host Terry, coming to you from Texas, the Lone Star State. I'm actually in Quanah, Texas, which is not technically in the Panhandle. It's just a little bit below the Panhandle and to the east, but it's only like 8 miles south of the Red River, which is the kind of dividing line between Oklahoma and Texas. So if that gives you an idea, 287, the route from Amarillo down to like Wichita Falls. So Quanah, Texas is named after Quanah Parker, who was the last Comanche chief. Quanah Parker. And Quanah is kind of a cooler name than Parker, for a town. So anyway, but I came through Amarillo today, and if you know, and I'm sure all our viewers know, that Amarillo or Amarillo is the Spanish word for yellow. And Amarillo, though, was originally named Oneida, which is kind of interesting to me because I grew up in Western New York, and the Oneida tribe of Native Americans was part of the Iroquois Confederacy. In fact, there's a huge lake north of Syracuse called Oneida Lake. But anyway, for some reason they changed the name from, well, I know the reason they changed it to Amarillo, but I don't know why they abandoned Oneida. But apparently Amarillo is kind of just based on these yellow flowers that grow in Amarillo Canyon along Amarillo Creek. And it's believed that the creek and canyon are named Amarillo or Amarillo because of this yellow soil. So you got yellow soil, which named the creek and canyon, yellow flowers in the creek and canyon area that kind of named the city. So there you go. Pretty well-known town, the biggest town in the Panhandle. George Strait sang about it when he was coming up from San Antone. Anyway, I had a request for to just talk about what orientation at GP Transco is like. And so I want to qualify what I'm about to say by telling you that I went through orientation in August of 2020. But I know that the orientation has changed slightly. So let me just give you an idea of what it was like for me, and then I'll add in what I know that they've changed. So, as I've kind of mentioned in other videos in the past, GP Transco is not a company that babysits drivers. They're not a company that's going to call you repeatedly and make sure you got to your hotel and make sure you're coming to orientation in the morning. They're not going to rent you a car or get you a ticket on the Greyhound bus or the Amtrak or a plane ticket. They're just going to expect you to be there. So you have to provide for your own transportation, both to the Joliet area but also to the orientation. And they put you up at a hotel for basically one night. So if your orientation's on a Sunday, they'll have a hotel for you if your orientation starts on a Monday, they'll have a hotel for you on Sunday night. Sorry if I mixed that up. And it's usually a hotel that has some breakfast. Monday you come in and you've already taken a drug screen and run that information through the drug clearinghouse before you get to Joliet. Again, they'll pay for it, but they just expect you to get it done and have all that stuff in order. So you get there, and within the first few minutes, And you know, the people in my group there were 5 of us. So within the first few minutes, they're going to grab people on that Monday morning and go for a road test. The road test is very standard, right? It's like drive around a big block, you know, and then come back to the terminal and do a backing exercise. They used to just have you back in between some trailers, and I will tell you that the parking spots at GP Transco's terminal are very tight. It's kind of funny, like, you know, a lot of drivers, when they come in there and just park overnight, they just like find a more open area. I'm not saying because they can't back, but because like your mirrors are literally going to be like this far apart once you get parked in there, so people try to space themselves out. But I did notice that they now, you know, like I came back, I just kind of backed in between some trailers. But I noticed now that they have, the way it looks like it's set up is they have a trailer that will, as you face these parking spots, it'll be on the right, meaning it'll be when you kind of come past it and kind of swing over to do like a 45 or a 90, whatever you want to call it, it'll be on your left side. That trailer will. On the right side, though, are going to be cones, and the cones are not on the line that marks the parking spots. They're actually beyond the line, like where a trailer would be. So, and I don't know if that's because people, like, somebody hit a trailer on the right side while they were backing in doing one of their, you know, road tests, or, you know, I don't know exactly why they did it. But then you also get, there's some cones that are out a little ways, so you can kind of see what the entrance is to get that truck in there. And, you know, they let you get out. They want you to get out, obviously, and go back and check and do that. And you know what I would tell you is, if you're the type of person that gets nervous taking a test, don't be nervous. Just do it as slow as you want, right? Like, there's no company, I don't care who they are, that says, look, if you're going to drive for us, you need to back into parking spaces quickly. We don't want to embarrass ourselves. Nobody says that, right? Take as much time as you want. And like I said, you're going to drive around a big block that includes some surface streets, and then I think I jumped on I-80 for one exit, you know. So just don't curb the truck, you know, pretty easy stuff. And don't speed in the road that kind of goes to the terminal, because what happens is you turn off like a major thoroughfare, which is US 6, and you go up a little hill, and then it goes to the right and then turns left, and then there's like a straightaway that goes to the terminal. Well, just take it easy on that, because at the end of that straightaway there's actually a speed limit sign that has a radar in it that tells you what your speed is. So you probably don't want to be triggering that with the guy that's doing the road test there. You know, make sure you put your 4-ways on when you know, your emergency flashers when you're back in. But even when I strongly recommend when you enter a yard you do that. I think that's just kind of standard operating procedure. So after you do that test, somebody else will come and get you, and they'll be like, hey, let's go find you a truck. And so you will go out, and there'll be you know, when I did it, we had choices. We could get a Freightliner if you wanted to drive a manual, which I don't have the license for that, but I don't want to drive a manual anyway. But they had a Peterbilt that had a manual, and then they had some older Volvos. I picked the cleanest looking Freightliner that I could find, and it turns out the batteries were dead in that, so I picked the next cleanest one, and that's the truck I have right now, and it's a 2021. There was like a video but the guy didn't even show his face on YouTube where he talked about how he got assigned like I think he quit at orientation, but he said he got assigned a crappy truck. But no one that I know of got assigned a truck. They picked a truck. Now, if you want to pick trucks first, be the first one to volunteer to go do the road test. I think I was the second one, but that's how they did it. And then, you start your orientation after that, after everybody's kind of picked their truck, and because then once you pick the truck, they're mating up the fuel card, the truck, your name, some other information for, like Samsara, the hours of service app. And, just pretty standard orientation, company policies, nothing too surprising. However, let me say this first. But at the end of that first day, you will stay in your truck that night. I didn't, because I just paid for a hotel room for another night because my wife and my daughter and my dog were with me. So we just stayed in the hotel. Ironically, that extra night, that was when the derecho came through the upper Midwest, and so our hotel didn't have power the whole night. We went and picked up a pizza and some sodas and stuff, but we had power. We didn't have power at all that night, and even in the morning we didn't have power, so we just kind of like showered up and got out of there. But the cool thing was we didn't have to pay for anything. They just waived it, which was nice of the hotel because it really wasn't their problem necessarily. But anyway, so my wife just came over. I loaded all the stuff in the truck at the end of the first day, so it was pretty much packed up. I had the keys, and then the next morning we came back, we wrapped up a few things, and then probably by, I want to say, and they did bring lunch in for us, so we didn't have to leave the facility to go get lunch or anything. But I want to say probably by noon the second day, we were, in our trucks for, ready to get a load. And so then, my DM communicated with me, and, I hooked an empty trailer and went and did a drop and hook. It was the first load that I took. I took the load out of Munster, Indiana up to Twin Cities area. But the one thing that will be different, and I know this from talking to the guy that does the orientations, is that they will give you a safety quiz or test. And really, according to him, it's to gauge where you are in terms of knowledge about safety stuff. It wouldn't, and I think we did maybe take a test, but I can't remember. But I know that they specifically now test on safety stuff. So, pre-trip information, hours of service information, handling a truck on the road, maybe following distances. I haven't seen the test, but he kind of described to me what they were doing. So, it's not a super, like some companies take you around and introduce you to people and show you the entire facility. And, again, GP Transco really doesn't do that. They're just like, you'll figure it out. And that's not to say that if you have a question, they won't answer it. Because I remember, like, with the benefits, I kind of glossed over some of it, and because some of it didn't come into effect until I'd been with the company for a little while. But I remember just calling the guy that ran the orientation and kind of knows about the benefits and stuff, and I'm like, hey, what do I do for this? And he told me it was pretty easy. And then they have some numbers you call and you just get stuff set up. So I set up like pretty quickly, like insurance, like I bought some extra life insurance and stuff, and then maybe let me see something. Maybe like 3 months after I started, I set up my 401k over the phone with the 401k provider, which is John Hancock, and that was pretty seamless, pretty easy. Yeah, there's nothing super stressful. You know, GP hires drivers that have some experience, so there shouldn't be anything that's like a curveball. You know, and candidly, if they got you in the building, you know, unless like you put the truck in the ditch during the road test, or you know, I don't know, run over a pedestrian or something, you're probably good to go. You know, so you just need to make sure that, you know, you're communicating. If you're worried about something, if there's something that you're not sure about, you know, just ask the question. And same thing with the safety test. It's an assessment, right? It's not like they're not going to send you home if you don't do well on that. It's an assessment for them to understand, hey, how much additional training might this person need? Like, I periodically get assigned to do like a quarterly safety course, which is routine at any company because it's usually a requirement for insurance. But if you did really poorly on the safety test, you know, they might want to maybe brief you or debrief you, or maybe have you take it again just to see if you, you know, maybe just panicked or whatever, misread a question. And then it wouldn't surprise me that your safety manager would give you, you know, instead of a safety course every quarter, you might see one every month or every 2 weeks. But like I said, if you're at orientation, you know, absent like wrecking a truck during orientation, you're good to go. And I gotta say, and I think I've said this before, my recruiter was Johnny. There was pretty much nothing I was surprised about. Nothing I was surprised about. So, you know, he did his job. He answered all of my questions. He never did one of those, oh, well, you can find that out when you come to orientation, because I hate that. It's like, why would I take a job with a company and commit to that company if I can't get an answer from the recruiter? So anyway, I hope this helps everybody. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.